Hello, and welcome to the Candidate Forum for the Arden Hills City Council. I'm Heidi Boyd. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of the White Bear Lake area, and I will be your moderator today. I do not live in Arden Hills. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan volunteer organization which encourages citizens to participate in government. Our mission is to support voter education and voter rights. We do not support or oppose any candidate or political party. Our goal is to encourage citizens to learn more about the positions of the candidates who will be on their ballot. All candidates who filed to run for this position were invited to participate. Today we have 4 candidates: Brenda Holden, Richard Priore, David Radziej, and Kurt Weber. To begin, each candidate will introduce themselves by name and make an opening statement of up to 1 minute. Our timekeeper will show warning signs of 30 and 15 seconds and then a stop sign. At that time, you can finish your sentence. For the opening statement, candidates will respond in alphabetical order by last name. Therefore, the order of the speaking, and thereafter, the order of the speaking will be rotated. Candidates will have 1 minute to respond to each question. And candidates, you don't have to use the full time. You could say what you have to say and be done, and that will allow time for more questions. Each candidate will have up to 3 opportunities to clarify information or rebut another candidate's responses. Each rebuttal is limited to 30 seconds. And a candidate may use only 1 rebuttal per question. When the questions are finished, candidates will have 1 minute for their closing statements, and those will be done in reverse alphabetical order by last name. Questions for this forum were received in advance from the public and reviewed by a committee of League of Women Voters members. We will not use questions that are unclear, hostile, or personal in any nature. We will consolidate questions that fall into the same topic area, and all questions submitted are the property of the League of Women Voters. So now we will begin with our opening comments, and we will start with Brenda Holden.
Hi, I'm Brenda Holden. My family has called Arden Hills home for over 35 years. We chose Arden Hills because of the city parks, open space, excellent schools, and quality of life. I joined the council in 2003 and have had the privilege to serve for over 21 years. Residents asked me to run again because they believe in a diverse and balanced city council, guided by independent-minded members with varying perspectives. The approach ensures fair and effective decision-making, avoiding control by any one single group. I support the development of the TCAP property. It is vital that the development be truly vetted to not put the city or current residents at financial risk. Through planning and budgeting, the city has added 7.2 miles of trails in the last 10 years and secured over $1.7 million in state and regional funds for trails and infrastructure. I push for maintenance and upgrading of the aging infrastructure, which avoids expensive reconstruction and protects our environment from untreated wastewater.
Thank you. Next candidate, Richard Priore.
I'm Rich Priore, small business owner, Army veteran, and father of 4 amazing children who attend schools in the Mounds View District. This election provides a clear choice between 2 very different types of candidates. On the one hand, you have 2 candidates, Kurt Weber and me, with a forward-thinking, fresh perspective and strategic vision, who are open-minded and willing to work with others, regardless of professional or personal differences. The other 2 candidates want to delay, defer, and ignore our city's long-term needs. We have a vested interest in our community's safety and quality of life with children attending the schools. We believe that public service is a public trust. The other candidates will say anything to get elected, even if it's untrue or fear-mongering. We believe in continuing the momentum and progress on TCAP in the past 2 years. The other 2 publicly criticize the lack of progress, yet they are the only 2 candidates who have served on the city council, one of them for more than 20 years. They're part of the problem, not part of the solution. It's time for a fresh perspective, Arden Hills. Thank you for your vote on November 5th.
Thank you. Next, David Radziej.
Hello, I'm David Radziej, and I'm asking for your support in the election for Arden Hills City Council. My wife Kathy and I have lived in Arden Hills for the last 32 years. Our home was on Holden Place next to a Great Pole Nature Preserve. We raised our 4 children here, sending them through St. Odelia's grade school and on to Mounds View High School. And now we're enjoying our 4 grandkids who live close by. In January 2022, I was honored to be chosen to fill the open position on the City Council. I'm no stranger to challenging work, as I was raised on a family farm in central Minnesota and spent my working career in and around the construction industry. I've been volunteering my time for the city since 2012. I served on the Economic Development Council and on the Finance Council, ending my stint there as chair, plus various advisory planning groups for TCAP or Rice Creek Commons. You can find out more about me at my website, runningrad.com. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next candidate, Kurt Weber.
Good morning, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for organizing this forum. I'm Kurt Weber, and I've had the privilege of serving as the chair of the Arden Hills Planning Commission, where I've worked on projects that shape the future of our city. My family and I have lived here for 6 years, and in that time, I've come to deeply appreciate the sense of community we share. I'm running for City Council because I believe we can strengthen our connection to Ramsey County, protect and enhance our parks and trails, and ensure that developments like Rice Creek Commons are handled responsibly. This will bring benefits to the entire community while contributing to a stronger tax base and creating new economic opportunities for local businesses and residents. With a background in capital improvement, operations, and IT, I'm committed to making thoughtful, informed decisions that reflect the needs of all residents. I look forward to the opportunity to serve and work with you all in building a better future for Arden Hills. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll move to the first question, and the first question will go to David Radziej. The question is, what skills and experience do you have that make you uniquely qualified to be a city council member in Arden Hills?
In January 22, I was honored to be selected from a group of 10 individuals in the city that could bring something to the City Council that wasn't there. So my background in finance, in construction management, in economic development issues played well for the city. And with that, we were able to put together a 10-year road plan or maintenance plan for our city and a 10-year parks plan. So we knew 10 years in advance what we wanted to get done, and now we're trying to fund it. So I think that's what I bring. Thank you.
Thank you. And the question next goes to Brenda Holden.
Yes, I've been on the city council for many years. I know how to do a lot of the stuff that needs to be done, so we don't have 2 car washes next to each other on Lexington. I know how to make motions like a lot of the new council members haven't figured out how to do. We have moved the city along. We have one of the highest rated road systems. We have a 70% PCI rating, where most cities only have a 40. We have 60% of our sewers lined so that it's safe. We have a maintenance plan, so everything is looked at and done on a yearly basis and on a 5-year basis. We have a 20-year budget. We plan ahead. We haven't avoided long-term needs. They've been addressed, and they are addressed through the budgeting and planning system. And all this stuff has been done since I've been on council. Thank you.
Thank you. The question next goes to Kurt Weber.
Thank you. So for the last 5 years, I've been on the Planning Commission. For the last year, I've served as chair. I work for Hennepin County and previously in the Public Works Department. I've worked in operations, now I'm currently working in IT. I have much experience in working with city government as well as collaboration between county and local governments. On my time in the Planning Commission, I've seen many cases that have ranged from the new fire department headquarters to zoning for Rice Creek Commons. I've been deeply involved in getting neighbors out to speak at public hearings, particularly when they involve impacts on neighborhoods. I will go around knocking on doors, trying to get individuals to come out and speak to the Planning Commission, get their points heard so that we can represent their ideas. Thank you.
And lastly, Rich Priore.
So I have a deep history of service with 10 years in the military. I've served on a number of boards. I have a strong background in finance. I teach graduate finance, which I think is important as we start navigating the details of TCAP to make sure that it does not negatively affect our city or our residents. But I think the most important qualification is I care about this city. I live in it, I'm raising my children, and I care about those who live in the community. I want to take a good community and make it better.
Thank you. And the second question will begin with Kurt Weber. The question is, if elected, what would be your top 3 priorities for the city? And how would you move those priorities forward?
Well, the top 3 priorities, I think, that face the city right now, obviously, are Rice Creek Commons, the continuing communication with Ramsey County, and the developer, and working out a plan that suits the city's needs. Developing comprehensive parks and trails plan so that we can qualify for funding that otherwise would be unavailable to us, such as safe routes to school and stuff like that. So, and then certainly building up our economic base by encouraging businesses to move into areas like Lexington Avenue, where we have many, many open buildings that are unoccupied, and decreasing neighboring property values.
Thank you. The question next goes to Rich Priore.
So I echo what Kurt said. Obviously, Rice Creek Commons has potential to add a third more to the size of our city, is the most important thing facing Arden Hills, and it has been for a number of decades. And I think the way to move forward is with a collaborative spirit. I don't think it's public record that the county representatives walked away from the table because there wasn't a spirit of collaboration and open communication. They're back at the table now with a new council. I'm an EMT, again, 4 kids in the district, so public safety and fire is important to me, more community involvement, neighborhood watches, and then lastly, as Kurt mentioned, more and better trails through a long-term comprehensive plan.
Thank you. The question next goes to Brenda Holden.
Yes, part of the thing would be TCAP. I think Rice Creek Commons. I think it's very important to say that this county walked away from the agreement that we had all had. The county voted on what we had proposed. The city voted on it. The county voted on it again. What happened was the county then would not come forward. We had given them our terms multiple times on what our starting point was. And in order to negotiate, you need to come forward and bring your terms on where you can to negotiate. That never happened at the county, and it isn't happening again. At the last JDA meeting, it was announced again from one of the council members, we gave you everything you want, county, and now the county wants more. So it'll be interesting to see how the collaboration goes. I think public safety is important. We need more off-road trails, and we also need the infrastructure fixed so people don't get sewers backed up in their basements. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. And the last candidate for this question is David Radziej,
Get a rebuttal here.
and then we'll take the rebuttals after. Yep.
Where are we at? Me?
Yes, yep.
Okay. Top 3 things, Rice Creek Commons. I think we've all kind of agree on that, and that's fine. Parks, I'd like to look at a deeper dive on our parks. We design them for really small kids. We need something for as they age, so we need a little diversity in the park system. Rental homes, big question out there for our neighbors who have renters next door. We love our college kids. We love the campuses. Too many kids in one house is not a good deal. So we're going to work on that. And crisis counselors for our sheriff's department. We're dealing much more with the issues at the residential level, and they need our help. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And a rebuttal from Kurt Weber.
Thank you. To Brenda, in your own 9 North video and here, you expressed how our current council JDA rep pushed back against additional county requests by saying, we gave you everything you wanted. By acknowledging this, surely you must recognize that this is not a build-at-all-cost perspective. The county did not walk away from the table on hearing that from our current county, our JDA rep. Something that was missing was a good faith argument in the previous negotiations with the county.
And a rebuttal from Brenda Holden.
Yes, I would just like to say this is the first time that the county's come to the city and said, we want more JDA. So don't worry, as time comes on, there'll be some conflicts with the county. Take a deep breath. It's early in their negotiation. Even though they haven't really negotiated, it's been capitulated. We gave you everything you wanted. Right now, the county and the developer are negotiating, but no one's telling me how the city is negotiating. And when the county and developer make their monetary thing, how is the city going to fit in? No one can answer that.
Thank you. The next 4 questions will be about the Twin City Army Ammunition Plant, referred to as TCAP, or the Rice Creek Commons Development. The first question of this series of 4 will go to Rich Priore. And the question is, do you think are the top 3 priorities for the development, and how would you move those priorities forward?
So with anything of this magnitude, you got to have all the key stakeholders come to the table and work together amicably to understand what each is looking for in negotiation. I've done negotiations throughout my entire career, and you can't put a gun to somebody's head and say it's a take it or leave it. It just doesn't work. The fact is Ramsey County owns the land, okay? It's going to affect Arden Hills, but I think one of my priorities would be to make sure that it does not adversely affect. Now, there have been discussions out in the community by those on either side of me that we intend to raise taxes. There's been a number that's been said, $12,500, that's been hinted that it's because of TCAP. That is absolutely not true. The discussions aren't even there yet. The developer has made some overtures that they're looking to keep Arden Hills citizens whole without adding any taxes, but the discussions aren't even there yet.
Thank you. The question next goes to David Radziej.
3 priorities for TCAP. I guess the spine road is the key to the whole project. We need some funding. Last time around, we had some budgetary funding at the Capitol, and the Capitol closed before the session ended before the bonding bill got approved. So until we get this spine road, all this other conversation is good, but it's not going to lend anything until we get that funding, because you can only build off the roads that you've already built. So funding, traffic is the whole north end is concerned about what the traffic's going to look like. And the projections are out there, but they're old. And there's a lot more building going on up there. So things like that are concerning to me.
Thank you. And the question next goes to Kurt Weber.
Thank you. So 3 priorities for Rice Creek Commons to me are at the very least a budget neutral finance option for the city, and a several $100 million project. I find it hard to believe that there is no compromise where the city doesn't end up at least budget neutral, if not in the positive as far as tax-based gains. Secondly is to develop green spaces that are accessible to the whole city, as well as recreational facilities. These are agreements that will be in place with the developer at no cost to the city, so that everybody in the city of Arden Hills can enjoy Rice Creek Commons. And third is getting funding for mass grading, which has, from my understanding, been nearly negotiated between the county and the developer. That is really the kickstart in getting everything moving.
Thank you. And the question last goes to Brenda Holden.
I think there's 3 important things. I think it has to be a mixed-use development. We have to have businesses there. We aren't going to get a bus line up there from Met Council. They've told us that multiple times. And it's very important. One of the things that I don't hear from the other candidates is the affordable housing. I know some of them have stated they want to do a lot of affordable housing up there. And it's important that we do have affordable housing up there, but we also need a grocery store. We also need a bus line. They took away lots of acres of commercial where people could have worked. So now we're going to have to make sure people do have cars to get off of TCAP, to get to their jobs. I think it's very important. I don't know where people are out telling people how much it's going to cost them, because I don't believe anybody has a clue what anything is, but we do know from the last budget request from the city where our consultant did it, we were in the hole $200,000 for 20 years because we have to hire a whole new city employees' equipment.
Thank you. So this is the second in a series of 4 questions about TCAP. And this question first goes to Kurt Weber. And the question is, do you support the current density limit of 1,960 residential housing units for this development? And the second part of this question is why or why not?
So I definitely do support the density at 1,960 units. On the Planning Commission last December, I heard that case along with the other commissioners and voted in favor of the increase in density. I think it is very important. One of the most important issues facing not only the Twin Cities, but our nation as a whole is housing people. And personally, as someone who's got a child who recently went off to college, and I'd love to see her be able to come back, there is no housing available in Arden Hills for someone, a recent graduate, that could be affordable for her to own her own property. I forgot the second part of that question.
So do you support the current density limit and why or why not?
Yeah, I support it because the traffic studies even have shown that removing commercial properties and adding in residential has reduced the impact to traffic to the whole development. Thank you.
Thank you. And the question next goes to Rich Priore.
So I do support the current proposal of 1960. And I just want to clarify, you know, when certain folks say affordable housing, it conjures up images. And to be clear, affordable housing is for folks, a family, an individual that's making around $70,000 a year, according to the study. So I have a nanny who's worked for us, take care of our 4 kids for several years. She's a school teacher at Forest Lake. She wants to live in our community. She wants to teach in Mounds View. Her husband is an engineer at Boston Sci. They are priced out of our neighborhood. They couldn't live in our neighborhood if they wanted to. We need more and more affordable housing. But I just want to be clear, when we talk about affordable housing, it does not necessarily constitute Section 8 housing. That hasn't been negotiated yet. It's for folks who are working professionals, those who want to downsize and retire. So I just want to be clear, and please rebut me on what affordable housing is or isn't.
Thank you. The question next goes to Brenda Holden.
With the 1950, I don't know. The numbers haven't been vetted. I don't know if the city can afford what it costs to have the 1950. There would probably have to be some remediation done in different parts. We do know that some parts of TCAP where the water table is only 4 feet deep. So there's all kinds of complications that multiply the cost of having 1950. While the traffic studies do show, there are traffic studies that show that at many intersections at certain times are between a D and an F, which means why would I want to put my business there if my employees can't get off or can't get on to TCAP to work, and they have to sit at an intersection for 5 minutes. Affordable housing also, there's such a thing as affordable housing at the 30% level as a family of 4 at $35,000 earning. There is all different kinds of affordability housing, and I do know that the county wants all different levels as long as the city does too.
Thank you. Rebuttal from Kurt Weber.
I believe Mr. Radziej has an opportunity to answer first.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, yep, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That was really nice of you. Yeah.
David Radziej, thank you.
Okay, thank you. No, I do not believe in 1960. That equates to roughly 5,100 individuals in that location. If you're looking at density, and if you're looking at St. Paul's density, they're roughly about 6,000 people per square mile, and we're dealing with 427 acres here. That actually puts it into a higher category than the city of St. Paul. And if you looked at 3/4 of an acre density that we proposed when I was on in 2022, the 1460 actually equates to about 4,000 individuals living there, and we came up with about 3,800, so it's fairly close. So 1460 would equate with what the city of St. Paul is going on. I lived in St. Paul. I moved out of St. Paul because I liked a little more grass for my kids to eat and the dogs to run with. Thank you.
Thank you. And now rebuttal from Kurt Weber.
Thank you. So I would just like to point out where that number 1960 falls in the range that was provided by a city conducted survey or a city commissioned consultant review of what an ideal range of housing units is. That study came back with 1,500 to 2,500 being an ideal range. Okay, and that study, done in 2014, the city ended somewhere at 1,490, and that doesn't even fall within the range that was advised by the city.
Thank you.
Study. Thank you.
Rebuttal from David Radziej.
I believe that study was dealing with amount of traffic needed for the county and the Med Council to put a bus line up here. And so, yeah, you have to have a high density to get a bus line up here. Thank you.
Okay. And we're going to follow up with a question about affordable housing to dive a little deeper. This question will go first to Brenda Holden. And the question is, what proportion of affordable housing units do you think is appropriate for the development and why?
Well, currently in Arden Hills, we have 40% affordable housing units. Some people don't even realize we have a manufactured home community with over 200 units. We, at the 30% level, we are at 27% of the affordability at the 30% level. Yes, I believe we have. The last term that we offered the county was 22% affordable housing units. Some at 60, some at 40, some at 80, and some at 30. So yes, I believe it should be less than 25, but we also need the basic needs for the affordable housing units up there. There is a list, which I brought up to the JDA, which hasn't been addressed at all, but you have to have a grocery store. You have to have transportation. You have to have things that meet the needs so people that are tied to their homes and even working at their homes need to be able to address without leaving.
Thank you. The question next goes to David Radziej.
Question was affordable housing.
Yeah, what proportion of affordable housing units do you think is appropriate for the development and why?
Just looking around this, talking to Shoreview and what they're doing in affordable housing, their percentages are much lower than what we've been heard, somewhere around 20% somebody was talking about. But affordable housing, I agree with affordable housing. It can happen naturally or it can happen with government subsidy. And I kind of look at the naturally, where you build a market rate apartment building and you can put some people in there that can't afford that, but who can afford it goes there. And they open up another section of housing, and then those people move up a little bit. So if you look at A, B, and C, people are moving from B to A because it's brand new, and C to B, and so you open up affordable housing at the lower end as naturally. Or you can take your taxpayer-based money and subsidize the heck out of it. There you go.
Thank you. The question next goes to Kurt Weber.
So I do support the current proposed level of 20% affordable housing in the development. I'd be really curious to learn how affordable housing in today's market is going to happen naturally. We have several new senior developments in Arden Hills, purportedly to allow the seniors who want to downsize in our city to move out of their homes to something more manageable for them, and they are not affordable. The proposed new development at North Heights Church, the same thing. The idea of not building anything that's even remotely affordable to these individuals who want to move out of their homes is not acceptable to me. Market rate developments do not naturally become affordable. That is not a trajectory that housing prices go. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. The question next goes to Rich Priore.
I agree with the 20%, but I think there needs to be a lot more discussion to vet this. I mean, it's compared to other cities around, it's an arbitrary number. I think you can't look at it in and of itself in a vacuum. As Brenda mentioned, you have to look at transportation needs. I think not having a bus line go there is not negotiable. There needs to be transportation if you're going to have affordable housing. And then the other thing you have to look at is what's the impact on the tax base and how does that affect the overall financial performance of the project.
Thank you. And rebuttal from Brenda Holden.
Yes, I would just like to note that for clarification, it isn't, the proposal now isn't 20%, it's at least 20%. That is stated in the last packet that was sent for the AUAR. And I would also like to know that anything that is considered affordable, they only pay 25% of the property tax. So again, that's part of the issue of how we pay the other 75% of the property tax and who pays for that and how it falls on current residents or the development.
Thank you. This is our last question about TCAP and the Rice Creek Commons. And the question is going to go first to Rich Priore. And the question is, do you support tax increment financing, or TIF, for any portion of the development costs? And the second part of the question is why or why not?
Yeah. So I'd just like to start out by saying these questions are great questions, but they certainly favor those who have or serve on the council. I am not privy to the documents that have not been disclosed to the public. Kurt has a little bit more exposure in his role. So what I know about the tax increment financing, it is a tool that can be used to look at the whole package. But as a finance guy, I need to look at the entire financial pro forma to see over a period of time, what's the impact over the next 5 or 10 years? How is it going to impact the city? What additional services are needed? So I cannot speak with authority on that specific element. If I were a sitting council member, I could probably do it some justice, but I think that's an unfair question for somebody who's not.
Thank you. The question next goes to Kurt Weber.
Thanks. I appreciate Rich's answer there. It's hard to have a discussion about supporting any particular level of TIF on a project that the financials are not shared with us. But as he mentioned, it's a tool to help develop projects so we can achieve our goals. And in that aspect, I would support some level of it as long as it is ultimately the city's ending up with at least a budget neutral or a financially viable deal. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. The question next goes to David Radziej.
Well, a TIF is an agreement where the county, the school district, and the city give up taxes for a set number of years in order for the development to go forward. And TIFs are usually designed for bladed areas, something that's really contaminated, not the good lands, but contaminated areas, so that a developer comes in and spends some money to develop it. I wouldn't mind having a conversation with the details of that from the standpoint of maybe the county wants to give up their TIF or create a TIF. Maybe the school district would, but maybe the city could be held harmless and not give up their tax for that development. So there's a lot of creative things that we could work on in finance to help develop this thing. Thank you. Thank you.
And lastly, we go to Brenda Holden.
Yeah, I kind of found it funny because Mr. Priore said he doesn't have privy. There's a lot of stuff I don't have privy to on TCAP because I'm not on the GADA, and there isn't a lot of respect or sharing from the members of the GADA. We're told everything is speculative, so we're not given answers. I would believe that one of the reasons what we had negotiated TIF with the developer because the city got a lot out of it. The city got a public works building. It got parks that were going to be upgraded. We got a lot out of giving TIF for parking because we knew we could get substantial money for affordable housing elsewhere. I believe if TIF is used, everyone has to look at a cap for the developer on his profit. This is all taxpayers' money that's going in here, and the developer should not be able to walk away with 25, 30% profit. We need to have a cap on what the developer is allowed to earn.
Thank you. We're going to move on to question 7, and the first person to answer this question will be David Radziej. And the question is, as a city council member, how will you solicit feedback from the community and engage with residents?
Well, it doesn't sound quite right, but I walk the streets. No, I go out where the development is happening, walk around, talk to the business owners, and that was part of our economic development charge, is to go out and talk with the businesses and see what needs they have, but I also talk in the neighborhood. So my bride and I walk about 6 o'clock every morning, and we walk in different parts of the city, and we just see if we run into people or dogs or whatever, and we just say hello. And people, what's fun on the campaign trail is they will tell you what's on their mind. And that is a really cool feature, I think, is they tell you about things that I wasn't aware of, you know. So that's what I tend to do.
Thank you. The question next goes to Brenda Holden.
What I've done as a council member for the last 20 years, I've picked areas every spring and gone to neighborhoods and gone and door knocked and talked to them. Especially if there's projects going on, like a road project or a park project, I go to those neighborhoods in the summer and talk to each and every resident that answers the door. I go to all the national night outs since I can remember, and that is a good source of information. Even during COVID, I repeatedly was reaching out to people who've reached out to me to tell me about what was going on in their neighborhood. I attend as many open houses as we have. And again, the most important thing is not to go out just when you're running for election, but to go out all year round and talk to people. And they have just, the most exciting thing for me is talking and engaging with residents and seeing what they have in their yards, the beautiful artwork and stuff. It's just magnificent. It's really fun.
Thank you. Question now goes to Rich Priore.
Yeah, so again, public service is a public trust. These council member positions represent all Arden Hills members, not just the ones that I think have a favorable viewpoint that aligns with mine. So being open and accessible to individuals who have opposing viewpoints, hearing them out, being available in the community, being transparent, making the open meetings for the city easy and productive. I think, I might be wrong here, but I think Kurt and I are the only two candidates who provide our cell phones. That wouldn't change when I'm elected. If somebody needs to reach out to me day or night, I need to be accessible. If they have a question or a specific need, our job is to help them.
Thank you. And the question last goes to Kurt Weber.
Yeah, thank you. As I mentioned earlier, as planning commissioner and as chair, I've gone around and knocked on doors of people who are impacted by planning cases to get their opinions, to encourage them to participate in the hearings, send letters if they can't attend public hearings, so that their voices can be heard. I think it's important to have community events and reach out on social media, on Facebook. I've requested input on Facebook to planning cases that we've had hearings for. Open houses are another big one, attending them and speaking to people, getting their input. That's a great way to congregate those who are directly impacted by projects. And you know, as Brenda mentioned, knocking on doors sometimes results in walking away without having spoken to somebody. So at least at open houses, you have the opportunity to speak to the people who are actively engaged or have specific concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will go first to Brenda Holden. And the question is, what do you believe the City Council should do to ensure that businesses thrive?
I served on the Economic Development Committee for many years. We went door to door to each. I had visited many of the businesses here in Arden Hills, and it's an eye-opening experience on all the unique businesses we have here. Lexington Avenue, unfortunately, sometimes people, we know that the grocery store that wasn't being named is owned by Amazon because they were going to put an Amazon grocery store there. They are refusing to sell it. They have it up for rent. We know that Pace is owned by a New York business, and there is a lot of remediation and pollution under there that needs to be taken care of. Many of the people that approached to buy the Pace across from Cub wanted to do a phase 1 study for remediation, and the owner of the property has refused that. I don't think the city should be in the business of buying polluted property and hoping that we could spend it cleaning up and then just spending it at market rate.
Thank you. The question next goes to Rich Priore.
Yeah, I think in short, Arden Hills should be a desirable place for businesses to operate and thrive. I know our EDC is just getting going. It's being revived. There's a lot of opportunity there. I think, same as the last question, there needs to be multiple opportunities for particularly the small businesses to address what their needs or concerns are, and also have an active outreach plan to get more new businesses in. And this is not just for TCAP and looking at mixed use, but also in spaces where we have opportunities to grow as a small business owner. That's near and dear to my heart.
Thank you. The question next goes to Kurt Weber.
Could you please restate the question?
Yes. What do you believe the City Council should do to ensure that businesses thrive?
Yeah, so I agree, actually, believe it or not, with Councilmember Holden's statement earlier about the Pace property. As the planning commissioner, I agreed with the idea that we shouldn't have two car washes next to one another, and the idea that because a property owner won't allow thorough investigation of a property, that we should end up with a development that is not ideal for the neighborhood, especially with the idea of another car wash going up next door, that something has to be done. The property owner can sit on that property until they're willing to allow appropriate investigation. But I also think it would be important for the city to consult with a consultant in finding ways to bring businesses that are appropriate for our city here so that they can thrive. I can't imagine that all of the city council members are perfectly aware of what our city needs, but a consultant might be able to provide that insight.
Thank you. The question last goes to David Radziej.
Well, I'm going to agree a little bit with that. Communication with our businesses all the time if we can. I support the idea of a little short video about how great it is to be so close to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the airport not that far away to do business around the world if you wanted to. We also have some great colleges here. We got to tell the world that we've got 2 universities in this community, and we got highly educated people. So if you're looking for some great talent, it's here. So come on in with your businesses.
Thank you. The next question will first go to Rich Priore. And the question is, what would be your approach to working with other Arden Hills council members who may not share your outlook on controversial and complicated issues?
Yeah, so this may be a little controversial, but anybody who has the time and the interest in watching some of the public meetings, there's the appearance of a spirit of lack of willing, cooperative professionalism. I have heard that there is staff members here at the city council that don't like the way that they've been treated by certain council members. I think that's public record. I think you have to approach this as these folks are working really hard for not a lot of money to support a small city and extensive needs. So I think being able to understand, I mean, it's the golden rule, right? You treat others as you want to be treated. And I don't think it goes any farther than that.
Thank you. The question next goes to Kurt Weber.
So I think collaboration among council members is key. The ability to communicate effectively, to have conversations, that whether or not you agree, to come to a consensus. The idea of simply voting no, just because the others voted yes, is not a reasonable solution to moving our city forward. You have to express your concerns and your desires in a responsible and polite way and work with other council members to incorporate your ideas into their plan as well. Being in the minority or feeling like others might vote a particular way is not a reason to simply be a naysayer or a contrarian.
Thank you. The question next goes to David Radziej.
I stand available for conversations. I do not know it all. I I'm going to admit it right away. I don't know what their values are, what their backgrounds are. I want to learn from them what they came with. I come with experiences. I come with energy. I come with ideas as well. And I hope they are open to new ideas and new energy, and that's what I bring to the table. So I stand available for conversations. And working with others across the hall, I mean, I've negotiated labor contracts. They don't always have the same idea what I have in mind, but we all end up with the right result, taking care of individuals that are in our communities and their families.
Thank you. And lastly, Brenda Holden.
Yes, having worked on the council in the last couple of years, there has been strictly inclusiveness lacking. The mayor has been stripped of all his duties. I'm not allowed on any committees. So the lack of inclusiveness on all of the council and learning from experiences that us that have been on the council for a while want to have has been discontinued. I know staff is afraid. They were told during one of the first meetings that if you don't agree, you can lose your job. That was announced in the audience from a newly elected council member. So staff is on edge all the time. But I think one of the things that we need to do is develop an opportunity for all of the council to be part of the council. And that is not happening.
Thank you. Next question will first go to David Radziej. And the question is, what steps will you take to ensure transparency and accountability in city government?
I think we worked on this idea of making sure that we had video available, or our TV system available for almost all of our meetings. So we had public, awareness of what we're trying to get done. So communicating with our neighbors, communicating with people who can't make it to the meetings. That was a big question. How do we make sure that everybody that may be stuck in their apartment or in their home, that they can't come down to the meeting because of snow or rain or whatever, we want to make them part of the discussion. And of course, when you're on the council, there is a phone number and people do call you, and it's not always about a stray dog. So it is a concern that they have, and they want to voice it. And I've had my phone number out there as well when I was on council. Thank you.
Thank you. The question next goes to Brenda Holden.
I think we go back to including all of council, so all of council knows what's going on. There's definitely a lack of communication from those that are running the council right now. My cell phone number's out there. I get calls. I got a call from someone this morning at 6 o'clock. I think one of the things that we need to do is answer the questions when they come to people. That was going to be one of the things where people could get their questions answered, and questions aren't routinely answered from council. I believe that when I ask a council what's going on with TCAP, I'm not told. There should be updates from every committee that happens in detail. Things are done behind closed doors, and then we're told that the top surface, this is what is agreed to. We have no idea what was discussed to get to that agreement, how it was decided. Only a few are, and the transparency is lacking. So when people ask me a question, where did they come up with that 1960? I have to personally say, I have no clue.
Thank you. The question next goes to Rich Priore.
So I said it before, public service is a public trust. There have to be multiple ways for residents of Arden Hills to communicate what their concerns are, not just communicated to what the issues are and then get their thoughts on it. There's some folks that it's not on their radar what's going on with TCAP. They have other issues, other concerns. I have a son with a disability, has Down syndrome. So ADA-friendly parks, and there aren't very many in Arden Hills, is a key concern for us. Not on the list of priorities, but you talk to a lot of the moms or at the playgrounds, they'll tell you this is really important. Their son can't reach the swing, right? So I think beyond just communicating what the agenda is that the council think is important, is being available to say, what's on your mind, what's important to you? Listen and actively listen.
Thank you. And the question last goes to Kurt Weber.
Yeah, I support open communication with the residents of Arden Hills through newsletters, inviting people to come to public hearings, emails, sending out blasts to the city so that they're aware of what's going on, being truthful, honest, and inclusive of the residents of Arden Hills. Councilmember Holden had mentioned reports from committee liaisons to the council. I can speak straight to that. Before the new council members took office, as a member of the Planning Commission, there were so many times where I felt like the commission was not being heard. We had to change the way that we were submitting amendments to our proposals to the council for cases so that they were heard, because the report was not being made by the liaison. In the last 2 years, I really do feel that the commission is being heard by the council. A very large change from the previous years.
Thank you. So we'll take one more question before your closing comments. And the question will first go to Kurt Weber. And the question is, are there people who are struggling in this community? And if so, what would you do as a city council member to address those struggles?
That is a very difficult question. Obviously, people are struggling. Everyone has seen what's happened to grocery prices in the last 2 years. That alone, for a family of 5 that I have, has been pretty hard to bear. People have to let go of wants so that they can provide for their family. And there are certainly people in the city that are worse off than my family is. In recent budget negotiations, there has been a discussion about, where the city stands. And last year, I believe we ended up 4% short of our budget because of the council's reliance on unreliable income, revenue sources such as licensing and permit fees. That left us short at the end of the year. And now we have to make that up this year. So when we talk about increasing the levy, it's directly due to the council's lack of long-term planning. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. And the question next goes to Brenda Holden.
Yeah, I don't know what 4% short he's talking about, because we had a net zero at the end of last year. So we aren't making up anything for last year. One of the problems going around and talking to people, there's a lot of people with student loans and kids. The rent at the manufactured home community is $550 a month for those people struggling, and they have to pay rent on their manufactured home community, on their manufactured home if they don't own it. The housing insurance, I don't know about everybody else, but my house insurance went up hundreds of dollars. There's a lot of people who are struggling to make ends meet. And to me, one of the best things we can do is make sure when we look at the budget is take needs versus wants. We can't always have everything. Right now, we have 4 trails that we're trying to figure out how to pay for, but we want to spend $100,000 on a master park plan. And it's a wonderful thing to have, and it should be done, but we have to figure out how to pay for what the wants and the needs are now.
Thank you. The question next goes to David Radziej.
Are people struggling? Absolutely. When you're out door knocking, you can see where paint needs to be repainted, or walls need to be repainted, sidewalks need to be redone. They are right there on the front lines with our citizens right here in Arden Hills. It's quite an eye-opener. And the last time around, we broke even with our budget. In fact, I think we added to some of the funding mechanisms, maybe water, sewer, something, I can't remember exactly, but we added to it. So overall wealth of the city is up. Property taxes went up 12.5% last year, and that'll come into next year's tax base. I don't know where they want to go. I'm not on the council. I didn't vote that in, but that is a huge number, and it has a hell of an effect on our citizens. So thank you.
And the question last goes to Rich Priore.
Yeah, I think people are struggling everywhere, and I think it starts out with you have to be able to empathize what people's struggles are. Personally, I grew up in a mobile home, Head Start kid, food stamps, so I can appreciate those who are less privileged. And it's easy to forget that sometimes we get comfortable in our lives. So I think it goes back to the last question where you have to be open and ask, what are the issues that are affecting you, one, and two, how can I help you? What are the resources available that the community can muster to help these folks, right?
Thank you. And then we have a rebuttal from Kurt Weber.
Thank you. I'd like to go back to the topic of the comprehensive park plans and whatever it might cost. There is a very solid argument that that should have happened a long time ago. As someone who served on the council for 20 years, it is a severe oversight that we do not have a master parks plan. The city has missed out on funding for those specific trails that were mentioned because of not having a master parks plan. We missed out on funding for safe routes to school. That was declined because of not having a comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
My last one.
And Brenda Holden has a
I
rebuttal.
guess I don't know what safe routes to school money. We scored low. Thousands of people put in an application, and you get it. We've gotten a safe routes to school for our elementary school. We got a safe routes to school for our Mounds View School District. So we've gotten money from the legislature for the trails. The master parks plan, I wasn't a parks liaison person. Maybe someone could have served on the parks committee and say, let's update this. We've had several people that have been there for years that never updated it.
Thank you. We will now turn to closing statements, which we will do in reverse alphabetical order by last name. Each candidate will have 1 minute to share their closing statement, to summarize their qualifications and positions. And we will start with Kurt Weber.
Thank you. As we look toward the future of Arden Hills, it's important to remember that fear should not guide our decisions. There are always voices that will try to divide us or spread uncertainty about new developments or changes. But I believe we're a stronger community when we work together, focus on facts, and see challenges as opportunities. Projects like Rice Creek Commons represents a chance to grow in ways that benefit all of us, without compromising what makes Arden Hills special. I'm committed to thoughtful, transparent leadership that prioritizes the well-being of every resident. We can have responsible growth, protect our parks and green spaces, and create a vibrant, inclusive city for generations to come. I ask for your trust in this vision. I look forward to working with you to keep Arden Hills moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, David Radziej.
Moving forward, I'm David Radziej, and I'm asking for your support for my election to Arden Hills City Council. I'm thrilled at the prospect of continuing to serve you, the citizens of Arden Hills. I take great pride in the work I've done as a council member, including a vote on a 10-year street maintenance plan, 10-year parks and trails maintenance program. These initiatives are designed to enhance our community and ensure that we have a better quality of life moving forward. My wife Kathy and I are big supporters of the military and their families, in particular the Minnesota National Guards, as Kathy has worked side by side with the Minnesota National Guard for the last 42 years. Our son served in the Navy, and I have several in-laws that are still actively serving in the military in a number of locations around Minnesota. I'm proud of the record I've served on the council, and I look forward to advancing Arden Hills into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, Rich Priore.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here today. And if you're watching this, if you watched this far, bless your heart. I said there's a clear choice at the beginning. If you want candidates who are going to be on the city council, who have a forward-thinking, fresh perspective and a strategic vision, who are open-minded and willing to work with everyone, those who have a vested interest in our community safety and quality of life, and those who want to continue the momentum on big projects like TCAP that's been established over the last 2 years. It's a pretty clear choice. It's Kurt Weber, and it's me. Thank you for your vote on November 5th.
Thank you. And lastly, Brenda Holden.
Yes, hi. I'm not endorsed by the slate that was already elected to the city council or that are supporting Kurt Weber and Mr. Priore. Forward thinking, I'm always amazed how when the city council gives facts out, it's considered fear-mongering. The city council should be inclusive. Everyone should have a specialty. Everyone should be able to share that information, and everybody should be able to work together. Unfortunately, that is not how it is done right now. And it won't be until we have more than independent thinkers instead of 5 people thinking all the same, voting the way someone tells them to do it. So I appreciate your voice. The best part of me being on the city council is engaging and talking with the residents and assisting them. I assist more residents on a daily basis than I can begin to count. But again, my website is brendaforardenhills.com, and I appreciate your vote.
Thank you. This concludes our forum for the Arden Hills City Council. Thank you for your participation. Our website, lwv-wbla.org, has listings for all of our candidate forums and links where you could submit questions for these forums. You can review the recording of this forum and all of our forums on our YouTube channel, League of Women Voters, White Bear Lake Area. Thank you, and remember to vote. Early voting is September 20th to November 4th, and Election Day is November 5th.